Okay everyone, welcome to another Fusion 360 tutorial where we are going to have a look at how to design our own little birdhouse here, uh, making sure that we stay within a certain size because we are actually then going to create a flat DXF file that we can import into our CNC machine software and cut all of these individual panels out. So I'm going to create a slightly different design than what's here. And I'm going to just kind of use this drawing here just as a basis of relative size of how big I want everything to be. But like I said, I am going to change things up a little and improve upon the design a little. For example, I want these windows to line up in the middle with the door potentially. Maybe I'll even add two separate windows. We'll see as we go here. So first thing I want to do is obviously start a new design, and this is going to be in inches, and I know by default I have it set up to be in millimeters. So what you want to do is just go to the document settings here on the left panel here, and click on change active units and change them to inches. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by designing this base first. All right, so we'll start with the base and then I'll do the front face after that. Now the base needs to be approximately 7 inches wide by 5 inches deep there. So I'm going to create a sketch on the bottom plane, and I'm going to choose a rectangle and create the rectangle at 5 inches by 7 inches. All right, I'll just zoom to fit here on my screen, and you can see the rectangle's already fully constrained. We specified the origin there as well as the length and the width. So I can finish sketch and go back to my home view here and hit extrude. So E on my keyboard for extrude. Okay. Now, the size of the wood we're going to use, we're just going to use 1/4 inch MDF. So I'm just going to make these, I'm going to just drag this up 0.25 inches. All right, that's going to be the size of all our panels here, 0.25. All right. And by default, you'll see that it will select a new body, which is what we want, but you'll see that as we add to this, by default it won't select new body. By default it'll actually go to join, and we want to remember to always choose new body here and hit OK. Alright, so we've got our flat base here. Let's go ahead and create the front face, which is going to present the biggest challenge with respect to its sketch. As you can see here from my drawing, I've got to create this outline of a shape. Now, I'm not going to create the windows or the doors yet, because planning this out, I want to take this front face and I want to mirror it without all of those features. I want to mirror it to the back here. All right, so we're going to mirror across a mid-plane to the back. All right, so you can see that I created a mid-plane here. We're going to have to create one in our sketch, but let's start just by drawing the front face. Now, the front face isn't going to start right at the edge here. I actually want to sketch it. If this is 5 inches deep here, and I go to my drawing, the side panel is 3 inches. All right, so this side panel here is 3 inches right there. Okay, now it's 3 inches plus 1/4 here, plus 1/4 there. That's 3.5 inches. That leaves me 1.5 inches of space left over. Divide it by 2. So I'm at 3/4 of an inch here and 3/4 of an inch here, 0.75. So I want to offset a plane. Like if I view my planes here, if I just hit the little eyeball there, you can see that my planes appear from being unhidden. I want to offset this plane 0.75 inches inwards. So to do that, I go to Construct, Offset Plane here, and drag that. Now you can see the negative sign pops up because I'm going in the negative direction. So put in negative 0.75. And there's my offset plane. All right, so now I can go ahead and create a sketch and select this plane here. And you can see it's going to take me nicely to my front view. Now, before we begin, I want to create a rectangle, but I have a problem. Notice I want the rectangle to be, I want it to snap to this line here, but there's no line that exists on my actual sketch plane. Look at my plane here. There's no line there. But I showed you in previous videos how to project some of your geometry or lines. So let's go back to the front view, and we're going to do this often in this video. I'm going to hit P on my keyboard after I started my sketch. Hit P on your keyboard and then select this line here. And now watch what happens. If I orbit around, look at how it projected that line onto my sketch. That's what I want, right? So that's an important step. Now if I go to create a rectangle, I'm just going to create it randomly anywhere. So let's say right here. And I'll fix the size, but let's just draw that for now. Okay. Now according to my drawing, it looks like I can tell you that I'm going to draw a rectangle that's 6.5 inches tall. So going across this line right here, I'll show you in this drawing. So starting from here down, which is the size of my side panel, is 6.5 inches long. So I'm going to create a rectangle that tall, and then 5.5 inches wide here. So this face is 5.5 inches wide. So I'm going to do 5.5 wide by 6.5 tall. All right. Now I'll create the dimensions in a second. I can do them right now. It doesn't matter. Okay. Dimension that line to be 6.5 and dimension this line here to be 5.5. Now, you're probably saying, okay, well, this needs to be centered, right? This rectangle. So let's go ahead and figure out a way that we can center this. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to actually draw a construction line in the middle. Construction lines, of course, are not part of your geometry. They're just there as reference. So I'm going to create a construction line right up the middle from the midpoint here of this line. And then I'm going to create a constraint, a symmetry constraint, constraining this side and the middle to be symmetrical. All right, so we're going to do that. So let's start by creating a line, making sure we're selected on construction line here. Okay, and we should snap, there it is, when the triangle pops up, that's the midpoint. So click, drag up, and I don't care how big this is right now. Okay, make it much bigger than it probably needs to be because we'll need that additional space later. Okay, so there's our construction line. I made that like almost 10 inches tall there, just for your reference. Now we're going to go to constraint, symmetry. It's 3 clicks here. 1, 2 sides that you want to make symmetrical, and then the center line. Okay, and you can see that adjusts and actually fully constrains because that center line was created on this whole bottom projection line. So it is now centering my rectangle on that projection line. Okay, all right, so we've got our rectangle. And so if you look at this design, it's got a step in and then it goes up and comes together with the roof after it's stepped in. I'm going to worry about that later because I want to make sure that I draw my roof pitch at a 45-degree angle here and here, and a 90-degree angle, of course, by default. If this is 45 and 45, this top angle needs to be 90. The angles need to add up to 180, right? So I want this to be 90 degrees so that my panels can fit together. Once I extrude my roof panels, I want them to fit together in a perpendicular fashion, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll worry about this little step here a little bit later. All right, so back to my sketch. I want to create a line from this corner to this corner. And you can see 45 degrees. Oh, and it's a construction line. So let's remove that construction button there. Back to line. And it should snap to a 45. You can see there it is. It snapped to a 45. Now, I'm not going to worry about the length so much. So let's just click there. And then let's do another line from here to here. And that should, of course, also be 45. Okay. And it says there 135. That's just because it's using the supplementary angle of 180 minus 45. Okay. So it's fine. It should all work there. Now, that should by default make this 90 degrees, right? I probably should put a constraint there to say that it may end up being over constrained. Let's see. I want this and this to be perpendicular. And there you go. Perfect. All right. So I don't even need to dimension anything after this. All I wanted to make sure was that these angles were 45, 45, and 90. I don't care how long those lines are. Okay. And if I hit T on my keyboard, I can trim. So hit T on your keyboard and I can actually trim that line if I wanted to. But I mean, it's a construction line, so I don't really care. Okay, let's do that step in now, right here. So I'm going to hit L on my keyboard for line, and I'm going to just choose anywhere right here to click, and then maybe click here, and then go up until you touch your roof. All right, now let's trim out some geometry. This line, and this line. Now you can see that totally removed any constraints from my sketch, but we're going to add some dimensions and you'll see that the constraints will come back. That happens after you trim, okay, because you've gotten rid of some geometry, but we'll fix that. And actually we can trim this line and this line as well. We don't need that. All right, so I'm going to make this, I just hit D on my keyboard for dimension. I'm going to make this line, let's say that is going to be 5.5. All right. And let's say that this line here is going to be, let's go with 1.5, a little bit less. Okay, just to give you more of a roof there, more kind of like a longer panel there. And then I shouldn't need to even really create this dimension. Okay, but that works out nice that it's 2.5. And let's maybe create, this dimension here, not that it matters. And you can see that then everything becomes constrained again and everything turns black, which is what we want. All right, so I think I'm happy with this. Maybe the only thing I might change, maybe I'll push this up to 5.75. So I'll double click that dimension and change it to 5.75. Okay, and maybe let's double click that. Let's change that to 1.4. Okay, I think I like that better. All right, so I'm happy with this. It's fully constrained. Let's finish sketch. All right, and let's hit E on our keyboard. Oh, and actually I did forget one important thing. So let's go back in and edit my sketch. All right, so I just right click the timeline where the sketch was and edit sketch. I want to add 2 tabs that are going to be pushed into this bottom base to kind of like locate and help me hold together this panel here. Because I am going to glue these. I am going to glue them together, but I want them to kind of be able to stand on their own as I'm gluing them. So I want to create tabs that are going to cut into that base. So let's do that. All right, so first thing is this base is kind of distracting because I want to put two tabs here. Okay, so it's kind of distracting for me. So I'm just going to go to bodies and I'm going to hide that bottom body. All right, now I'm going to hit R for rectangle and just create any random rectangle. Now, since it needs to cut into my 1/4 inch plywood, this should be 0.25 inches, right? Oh, and this line here, let's make that 0.75. That should be good enough. Let's make it to 1. Let's change that to 1. All right, now I want to attach this to here, and I'm going to use that using a constraint. So hit escape to escape out of the dimension tool. And what I'm going to do, that's why it's still blue. I need to give it a location, right? So I'm going to hit a constraint, and I want to do the collinear constraint, meaning that I want to make this line on the same line as this line. All right, and it'll place it on that line. Now, let's give it a dimension off of this side so that it knows how far away from there it needs to be. So dimension from this point to this point. Let's make that 0.75 off. Okay, we can even go even a little bit less. Let's double click that and change it to 0.65 maybe. Okay, I like that better. Gives you more space in the middle here. All right, and now what I'm going to do, the nice thing is I can just mirror that across this center line. I don't have to create another one here from scratch. If I can just select this here, okay, do a window from left to right, go to create, mirror, okay, and that's already selected because I selected it. So go to mirror line and select your mirror line, and look at that, it pops up, okay, and it's already fully constrained. All right, perfect. So I added those tabs. So let's put the body back in. Let's unhide that. Let's go to finish sketch, home view. All right, and let's hit E on our keyboard for extrude. And actually, let's still hide that body just so we can see those tabs. We need to extrude those tabs as well. So we're going to extrude this, this, and this 0.25 inches inwards. So I just flip the direction so you can see that it comes up as negative. So put negative 0.25. All right. Now, just make sure that the operation is new body. Okay, make sure it's new body. Okay, and hit OK. All right, now let's unhide this. And you can see that those tabs are going into my base, but we need to cut out those rectangles in my base. I'm going to do it at the very end because right now, like, we have intersecting geometry. We'd actually get an error here. Because this is going into my base, but I haven't cut out those shapes in my base, right? But we could do that really easily at the end once we're done all our tabs. Okay, let's move on and mirror this to the back, right? Remember I said I was going to mirror that. But to do that, I need to create a mid-plane. All right, once I'm in 3D, I cannot create... I can't create a line and then mirror across a line. That's only in a 2D sketch. When I'm in my 3D model, I need to mirror across a plane, all right? And so what I'm going to do then is I need to create a mid-plane on this base. So if I go to construct, mid-plane, select where you want the plane to be in between. So I want it to be in between this face, orbit around, and this face. And you can see it drew the plane. Perfect. Hit OK. Now I can go to create, mirror, select, make sure that your pattern type is bodies. I think by default it will be faces. make sure you change it to bodies, okay? And select this body, okay? And then select the mirror plane right there and hit OK. And so you can see that saved us some time, right? I didn't have to draw that from scratch. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to do the side panel. So there's a side panel here, one up here, and then one on the other side there. All right, so let's go back to my home view so I can see what we've got. All right, and now this is actually going to go by a lot faster because these panels are a lot easier to make. So I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to create a sketch on this surface. All right, so I'm going to create a sketch on this surface. That will allow me now to draw a rectangle there. If I orbit around, you can see that my plane is exactly, do you see that? Exactly where I want it to be. I want to sketch on that plane there. Okay, hit escape and go back to the right. Now, if I hit rectangle, you may have an issue selecting a proper corner here. We're going to project these lines. Okay, so I'm going to hit P on my keyboard, and I'm going to select this inside line and this inside line because that's where I want my rectangles to be, and hit OK. So I'm projecting those onto my sketch so that these points pop up. Now when I hit rectangle, I can just connect those points, okay? And there you have it. It's already black and fully constrained. I can actually just hit Finish Sketch. And now hit E. Extrude this inwards, so it'll be negative 0.25. Now be careful here. Watch this. Look at by default how this is at join. All right. Hit Tab. So it inputs that negative 0.25, and then make sure you change this to new body. By default, it wants to go to join. Okay, nice. Let's do this up. Oh, and actually, once again, I forgot to put those tabs. So let's do that again. All right, so I'm going to have to go back in this sketch and edit my sketch. And again, I want to hide this base. So body 1, and actually I should rename that. Okay, and this will be right bottom. Okay, so I need to add tabs. I'm going to hide this base, and I'm going to create a rectangle. All right, again, make it 0.25 deep there or tall. Hit Tab, and I think we made them 1 inch wide. All right, now you can see it's blue. No problem. We're only going to do 1 tab right in the middle here. Okay, so we're gonna do a constraint again, not a collinear this time. This is gonna be even easier because if I do a midpoint constraint, I can constrain this midpoint of the line there and then this midpoint of the line there, and you can see it already turns black. It's fully constrained. I gave it a location. Okay, and let's finish sketch. And now we have to edit the feature, so the extrusion, to also include that there. Okay, so I just clicked on it and hit OK. And if I orbit around, I should see that that worked. It did. And let's turn that base back on. Okay, good. Now, we can't mirror that. We're not going to mirror that right now because the other side is longer. So we'll just keep it as is. And let me do this front face here. So I'm going to create a new sketch on this surface, and I want to project P on my keyboard, this line and this line, and hit OK. Hit R for rectangle and connect. It's already fully constrained. I don't need any tabs there. I won't do any tabs there. Finish sketch. Hit E on your keyboard for extrude. Select, drag it inwards, it'll be negative 0.25. Now again, be careful, it goes to join, change to new body, and hit OK. All right, it's coming together. All right, now let's do another new sketch right on that surface. Okay, again, P on your keyboard for project, this line and this line, and hit OK. R for rectangle. Simple as that, everyone. Finish sketch. Okay, and let's hit E on our keyboard. And just orbit around a little bit so we can see that we want to drag it inwards. Ooh. Okay, negative 0.25. Oh, and I just realized that I did not hit new body, so I'm just going to edit my feature, make sure that it's a new body, and keep everything else the same. Okay. All right, now we're going to do the roof panels. So we can start with this roof panel. This should go fairly smooth. And now you're going to see why I made those angles. That angle up here, 90 degrees. You'll see it now. All right, so I'm going to create another sketch here. This time I want my rectangle to be, because my roof is going to overhang, right? So I'm going to actually not project my inside line. I actually want to project my outside line. Okay. Hit OK. Now create a rectangle. Okay, it's going to sit on top there. All right, finish sketch, E. And this time pull it upwards. We want the roof to sit up, and we want that to be 0.25 again. And once again, oh, and look, this always happens, all right? For some reason, it doesn't want to select this extra part here. Make sure you click on that too. All right, that happens for whatever reason. And then make sure you go to new body and hit OK. All right, now I'm going to show you the press pull tool because we're going to have an overhang here. So a lot like we did with Google SketchUp, you can actually, this button here is your press pull tool, and you can select surfaces to press pull. So press pull and then select the surface. And so I'm going to pull that out, let's say 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. I'm going to press pull here as well, 0.75, and orbit around. Do it here as well. Okay. And there's part of our roof there. Now let's do another sketch on this surface. And P on your keyboard, and again, choose the outside lines. R. Okay, create a rectangle there. Perfect, and hit finish sketch, E for extrude, select your surface, and pop that up 0.25 inches. Oh, and look, again, it didn't select that portion there. So let's go to edit this here and just add this rectangle. So just hover your mouse over that and click on it, and then, oh, and I forgot to do new body. Okay, it's very easy to forget to do that, but the good news is with Fusion, you could so easily go back and edit it, right? All right, let's push pull. I'll do this one fast because I've already showed you how to do that. Just might need to zoom in there in order to grab that there. Okay, now look at this situation here. Here's why we made our angle 90 degrees, so that these will fit perpendicular. So I can choose one of these, like this longer piece here, okay? Or actually, let's choose the smaller piece. Might look nicer. To push-pull, 0.25 inches to line up with that other panel. And there you go. That's why we chose 90 degrees. Look at that 90-degree angle in there. Otherwise, they wouldn't fit like that, and you'd end up with intersecting geometry. Now, there's other ways around that when you're like, you can do other roof pitches, of course, but then you'd have to, once you carve out your wood, you'd have to probably sand down or file down the edges so that these fit nicely, right? But it's still, of course, doable. I just like to do it at a 90 there, keep it easy. And let's do a roof here. So, new sketch. We're almost done. All right, now I don't like that that's in the way. Here, let's just orbit around a little bit. I probably should have done this first. Let's just hide that. Okay. So again, let's project P. Let's project the outside lines there. Okay. Hit OK. And then R for rectangle and connect that there and finish sketch. E for extrude. You can see a lot of this is just getting repetitive, and then go up 0.25, tab, and make sure that it's a new body. Oh, and again, it didn't select here. So make sure you do that, and new body, hit OK. We're going to push pull, of course, or press pull. We want to have some overhang here. So let's go, we'll maybe do a little bit less. Nah, you know what, let's go 0.75. It'll be kind of a hangout for the birds. Okay, 0.75 and 0.75. Okay, perfect. And looks like we're good to go. Let's go home. Let's back to view that roof, and let's rename these. All right. So we've got body 4 here, which should be my right lower panel. Body 3 is my back panel. Body 6 is my left panel. Body 5 is my right upper panel. Okay, this should just say front panel, just to stay consistent here. And this is my left roof panel. Body 8 is my right roof panel, and body 9 is my flat roof panel. Okay, perfect. So there it is. Now, I did say that we needed to cut into the base. Now that we have everything down here, let's cut into the base. You can watch how easy this is in Fusion. So there's a button here called Combine. We're going to hit the Combine button. Okay. And we are going to select the target body that we want to cut. So that is this bottom panel here. All right. Then it says, all right, choose the tool body that you want to do the cutting. So it's this. We want this to do the cutting, to cut into my panel, my bottom panel. This, orbit all the way around. This, and this. Oh, and actually, you can see here, I did not do my tab there. All right, so let's cancel. Good thing I named, I labeled this and I named these panels here. So that would end up being my left panel right there, right? So it's that one there. So let's see where we can find there it is. There's that sketch there. All right, so that should be it. So let's edit, sketch, Okay, now we need to orbit around there. It should be on the other side. Okay, so let's view from the left view. Okay, so this happens, right? You might forget something, but you can always go back and edit it. That's the beauty here of Fusion. So hit rectangle. We want it to be 0.25 by 1. Okay, now let's hide that base. All right, and even let's hide the right lower panel because that tab is from the panel on the other side. So let's hide that too, just so I could see better. All right, let's zoom in. Okay, and now let's do a midpoint constraint for this and for this. Okay, we could hit finish sketch, and then we're going to edit this extrusion right there, extrude 5. All right, because it's still not showing up, so we got to go to extrude 5 and edit that feature and make sure that we also click on that there. And then everything else is good. Hit OK. Let's go back to unhiding these. Okay, and now we're good to go. Let's now go back and go to the combine tool. Choose our target body that we want to cut right there. Our bodies that we're going to use to do the cutting will be this, that, and that. All right, so it should say 4. And now by default, I'm pretty sure yours won't say cut. It needs to say cut. I think by default, yours will say something like join. You don't want that. And by default, this will not be checked off. So you need to change this to cut. And you need to say keep tools. Like you want to keep these tool bodies. You don't want them to be gone. Otherwise, they'll be gone. So hit keep tools and hit OK. All right, and now if I were to go to that very first sketch of mine, okay, I should end up seeing that those rectangles were in fact cut out. And you can always check, okay, you can always check if I select my whole model, you can check if you have any intersecting, any interference in your model, okay? So if you select it all and you go to inspect, interference, okay, it's already selected because I selected it all. Now just click on compute and look at that. It says no interferences detected. That means I properly cut out those rectangles at the bottom in the base. Otherwise it would say that I have interferences. Okay, so there it is. There is my plain birdhouse without any features on the front like doors or windows. I'll do that in my next video tutorial so that this isn't too long and doesn't go on too long. So in the next video, we're going to add some features here, and then I'm going to show you how to take all of these panels, lay them flat, okay, and then save as a DXF file for our CNC machine. All right, so that'll be the next video.